All right, everybody, welcome to tonight's live stream. We have some very important updates to share with you as we are celebrating a very big weekend here in the United States. There's a lot of things going on right now in America, and it's a very interesting time for our live stream because the media reports that are coming out right now is that Donald Trump is on the verge of bringing peace to the Middle East. He is going to sign this record deal with Iran. Everything is going to be good. But there's a lot more going on behind the scenes that you probably don't know, and we're going to break it all down because I have to be honest with you, this entire thing is utter BS. And if you believe that Trump is finally telling the truth on the 39th time that he's announced a deal, well, then I've got a bridge to sell you. And let me tell you what, this is definitely going to be a very entertaining live stream. To help us all break it down, of course, we've got Alex from Reporterfy Media. Alex, and also the legend, Carl Zah, joining us today. Good to see the three of us back together on screen. Hey, Carl, how are you, bud? Alex, how are you?
Happy Sunday.
Hey, Cyrus. Hey, Alex.
Happy Sunday. Well, guys, it's an interesting time to discuss this because, it is Donald Trump's 80th birthday. We've got a grand celebration in the United States. The White House has been transformed into, I'm just going to call it what it is. It looks like a circus there. You've got UFC, the Ultimate Fighting Championship stage setup. You've got motorcycles going through the air. I think, and we just had one of the largest IPOs, which I know, Alex, you want to get into because we have some interesting things about SpaceX. We've had a lot of people asking us about our opinions on SpaceX, Elon Musk becoming a trillionaire. Guys, there's a lot going on, but I want to get your thoughts. Alex, what's your first thoughts on Trump saying that he's got to deal with Iran?
Proceed with caution in this case, because we've heard it 39 times. We might hear it 40 times. And I think it's all going to come down to the money. And we're going to go in depth, in details on how these countries potentially have hidden billions of dollars of Iranian sanctioned money over the last few decades. And now the musical chairs are about to be up, and someone's got to write a check for hundreds of billions. And I don't think the Israelis are ready to do that. And when you hear later on in this program, it's going to be very interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. Carl, let us know your thoughts on Donald Trump's opening statements this weekend. Do you think this is just a large cover-up that he's trying to basically announce a deal that way that he can have his 80th birthday celebration and, make sure that his UFC fight goes on, without any problems, as the U.S. is also hosting the World Cup right now? Do you think this is just one big kind of cover-up so he can try to save some face?
Well, Donald Trump is trying to put this behind him for forever now. Like you guys have pointed out, this is the 39th announcement of a new deal with Iran. That's going to make everything okay. Well, everything is not okay. Even if they do sign a deal tomorrow, the whole oil market and the whole logistic chain is going to take years to repair. If you look at what happened with interruption at the Red Sea with Houthis, we still haven't, the marine traffic through the Red Sea still haven't returned back to the 2022 level. So a lot of the high inflationary pressure is already baked in. But Donald Trump knows the longer the war drags on, the worse the economy is going to become. So he keep on releasing the good news, trying to pump up the stock market. Like we talk about, SpaceX is going IPO. And I think this is everything I see right now reminds me of .com bubble. This is, at the end of the bubble, that's when everybody tried to cash in. This is like the insiders, they all want to be millionaires, billionaires, trillionaires. They want you, the retail investor, to hold the bags. So this is why we're going to see OpenAI also going to IPO, and we're also going to see Anthropics. Everybody is going to cash in right now. This is the last chance.
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt. And, I mean, I actually have some really interesting tweets and videos that I want to share. I was talking with a good colleague of mine. He is actually one of the biggest AI insiders. He's written some fantastic books. He's worked in Beijing for many years, and he was telling me about this. We're going to share that a little bit later on. I want to kind of focus on Iran because I think what we're looking at right here is we're looking at Donald Trump definitely trying to base guys. He knows that right now, I mean, for example, the United States just hosted the World Cup opener, for Team USA yesterday. Shout out to Team USA. They did secure a very good win in the World Cup. But, that basically it's kind of, you couldn't ask for a worse PR moment for Donald Trump in the sense that, he has to kind of get this to the finish line. And for him, we know his strategy is always to announce that he's been winning. Actually, from day one, they already announced that they won the war. And it's hilarious because anybody outside of the United States realizes that that's complete BS. But, there's so many ignorant Americans there that just have no idea really what's going on outside of our own country that they simply just buy it. And you have the MAGA, people, the diehard MAGA fans, they're just going to believe anything that Donald Trump says. And I think that's basically, and I think you had a good point here. We know that we know that Elon Musk wanted to go IPO. He had to have a smooth launch. I'm almost certain that Elon Musk put a phone call into the White House saying, "Hey, Donald, need your help here. Go ahead and send out some tweets. Like, let's just tell everybody that we got a deal coming. We got to have this. I'm about to become a trillionaire. Let's not screw this up over the weekend. Let me get my bag. Let's go IPO, and let's just announce a deal." Which again, like, it's remarkable, guys. I mean, this is not an exaggeration. This is the 39th time in the last 105 days. I mean, that's an average of every 3 days Donald Trump is declaring a deal. And it's like, it reminds me of the little boy that cried wolf, right? Eventually people are not going to believe you. I mean, it's remarkable that it's gone, like the next time he says this, it's going to be not time number 40. I mean, how gullible are American people that are still believing that he's going to reach some type of deal here?
Exactly.
I just don't get it.
And like Mr. Alex pointed out, there is a whole elephant in the room. That's Israel and this Israeli lobby. They do not want this deal to happen. Israel is now cranking up their aggression in Lebanon. They're trying to turn the south of Lebanon like Gaza. Part of that is to satisfy Israel's own strategic aim in Middle East, but also to sabotage the deal because Iran has made it clear Israel's aggression against Lebanon must be part of the deal. They're just like so many demands that made by two sides. They're just not very easily reconcilable. As much as Donald Trump wants to tackle, but if they agree to all the terms that Iran demanded, it will be a complete surrender. And I don't think the national security establishment of the United States would even let Donald Trump tackle, because that would mean the end of U.S. empire in West Asia. And, Pentagon would not have that.
Yeah. Go ahead, Cyrus. Go ahead.
I want to just bring up that first slide because I've got an interesting tweet that I wanted to share with everybody. This is from Professor Robert Pape, University of Chicago. I mention him every week on here. This is kind of an interesting one, where he says, this is his tweet that he sent out today. Trump is getting fleeced by Iran. Here's the deal: $24 billion in cash plus the oil sales. Just 60 days of open Hormuz. Iran pockets $30+ billion in 2 months. Day 61, Iran can close Hormuz again and repeat the extortion. Massive loss for Trump. Huge win for Iran. Everybody, here is the basically the situation that we're looking at. Actually, put that screen back on. I want to show everybody that map so we can see that very clearly. But basically, you can kind of look at the line of control. So this is essentially a really big thing that we actually revealed last week when we had Professor Morandi on the show. Is he said, I thought the most brilliant insight. He said, up until February 28th, we never thought of actually controlling the Strait of Hormuz. Now today, we can't think of never not controlling it any time in the future. And so you see those two lines there. That's basically everything between those two lines is now the area that they're going to want to militarily control. And the issue is, that's good for the screen. We'll go back. We'll go back on screen here for our live stream here. Thank you, sir. So basically, that was a remarkable insight I thought that Professor Morandi shared last week is the fact that now Iran realizes just how much leverage it has. His whole life, he's like, we never thought about closing the Strait of Hormuz. And that was also the thing that Netanyahu had told Trump when he pressured Trump to make this move. There's no way they're going to be able logistically to do it. Hey, we have more firepower, we have more missiles. The United States has the strongest navy in the world. What can they possibly do to close the strait? You don't even worry about that opportunity or that potential of a strait being closed. And now you're looking at, massive concessions. We're talking tens of billions of dollars being released back to Iran, which is one of their demands. And the other thing is that Trump is trying to tell you this lie. He's trying to tell everybody that, look, my deal is going to guarantee that Iran will not have a nuclear weapon. Actually, that was the first thing that Obama's deal covered. So again, we're basically trying to get back to Obama's deal. And I guarantee you, if Obama's deal was on the table right now, Donald Trump would take that deal in a heartbeat. He'd try to spin it, and he'd try to say that it was his deal and that he brokered something magical. The reality is that we're not going to get anywhere close to what Obama actually had in play before Trump ripped it up and said it's the worst deal that ever happened. Now, Trump would be lucky if he would even be presented with that opportunity. But again, you've opened Pandora's box. You have unleashed an unbelievable opportunity for Iran to make billions of dollars. And this is why the title of the stream, if you're watching on my channel, is, Trump has given massive concessions to Iran, because honestly, there's just no way that Iran is not emerging from this in a more powerful position. They're already much more powerful and has much more world influence today than they did on February 27th. And so this is just not going to end well for the United States, with everything that you guys have said as well. Alex, back to you, buddy.
Sure. So let's bring up a chart here that I want to show everybody what we can expect if there's a deal or no deal. And you have to kind of think of this as Trump is in a house that's leaking and he's selling it tomorrow morning without an inspection. Here we go. So phase one is the reopening. Let's say it does reopen tomorrow. We're going to need about 4 to 6 months for logistics and it to kind of stabilize. Remember, these VLCC tankers, very large containers, take about anywhere from 40 to 60 days to get to the nearest port once they've filled up with oil. They go about the speed of a bicycle. Then we're going to move into phase two. So remember, phase one takes us 4 to 6 months. All right. Phase two, we're going to be restoring the shipping volumes. Now we got to get this thing up to about, we lost about 20 million barrels a day. That's going to take mid 2027 for us to get there. And phase three, erasing the crude deficit. Remember that most of these countries basically cleared out what they had for emergency barrels to help them through, or we'll call it window dress the market. So this little stunt that the administration pulled off should take anywhere from 3 to 5 years to balance itself out. So goodbye cheap gas pumps, goodbye cheap vacations. Hello to the new Trump era. Let's go on to the second graph I've got here. And this one talks about this is the anticipated price spikes and market volatility. We can assume that $105 to $110, now that is dated oil. That is not what you see trading on the derivatives or futures market, but that we'll just call it reality, okay? A full year will take us maybe down to 70 to 80, and if things go well between 2028 and beyond, $70, $75 a barrel. Okay, we're going to move on to the last chart here. Now, the long-term economic aftershocks, as Cyrus just pointed out, this is a new ball game. This is kind of like a cash machine for Iran that actually, I think Trump gave the Iranians the idea, Cyrus. I really do, because he's the one that says, oh, you guys could charge to go in and out of there. So I think we're going to see, fuel prices probably surge anywhere from 30 to 50% from here. And, well, who knows what's in store for going into December, let alone going into a busy summer here for the average traveler on the road.
Yeah, it's remarkable. I mean, Alex, we've been covering this for months now, and just the effects of the market. Those are really great graphs, by the way. Thanks for bringing those up to give that to the people, because I mean, that's the thing that I think people don't understand as well is the fact that this strait has been closed for 3 months, let's call it, and the average containers that we're going through was 100 a day. Let's call it 100 a day, somewhere around there. The average since the closure has been 7. So, I mean, that is a massive difference, guys, right? That is a 90% reduction in containers going through. You have a few that do go through. It is countries like China that have good relations with Iran, other countries that are willing to pay in order to just get their stuff through. But again, you've given them this amazing opportunity, to basically control and to print money. And I mean, they're going to have to, right? They're going to have to rebuild. There's going to have to be a very big process here. And the simple thing is that I think what you're alluding to, a lot of people don't understand is these oil reserves in many countries. We've tapped into this for the last few months. So everybody is at strategic low levels right now. So we're kind of at a tipping point now where if this doesn't get reopened, very, very soon, now even all your oil reserves are going to be tapped out as well. And that could really send everything into utter chaos. So we're really looking at, again, Donald Trump playing with some fire here. But I think for him, everything is, I've said this before, he's a narcissist, right? He's probably the world's biggest narcissist. So for him, for example, he was focused on getting that Lincoln Memorial Pool redone so that it's shining bright. He wants to have a grand 80th birthday party. He wants to have, Evel Knievel, guys jumping on their motorcycles. He wants to have this UFC, fight. And it's remarkable because anything about that, if you try to ask him about the war, it's going to be like, well, we've already won the war. We won the war on day one. But this is why we have the show. We try to go back through, what this actually means in the financial markets and how this actually works, because it's not like it's a faucet, right? Where it's like, we've turned it off. Okay, great. We just flipped it back on and we're ready to go, guys. That oil's pouring out everywhere. Like we're back to normal, guys. The strait's open. I mean, this is just months and months of damage, right? It's like a hurricane goes through a city, it just devastates it, right? It takes years to rebuild. So, yeah, I don't think that we're anywhere close to here. And I like what Carl pointed up. The big issue here, guys, is it's always Israel, right? And Israel, they basically are not going to give up on Lebanon, right? They're going to keep hammering Lebanon. They are controlling over 20% of Lebanese territory right now. So the issue is, and this is Israel always gets the pass here, right? Because the whole argument is that, well, there's Hezbollah down there, they're doing bad stuff. So we're going to march down to this point where we know Hezbollah is. Well, they've extended well beyond that point. Typical what Israel does, right? Similar when we went into, when Israel went into, Gaza, it's like, well, we need to eradicate the terrorists. And they completely eradicate the entirety of Gaza. And it's like, well, we just tried to get the terrorists. And, meanwhile, it looks no different than if you took a bulldozer and just demolished every building in sight. You might as well drop an atomic bomb on it. I mean, it's completely bare, right? It's just devastated. There's no way that was a systematic targeting of terrorists. And so, you see the same thing happening in Lebanon right now. And I think the issue is I did see an interesting tweet from Piker Hassan, very big voice, on the left here in America, where he said, Iran is the only country in the Middle East that is willing to stop Israel's aggression in the region. And that's the issue of why they're being targeted. They are being targeted because they're the only one that's going to call them out and stop. And like you said, Carl, that is one of the primary deals for Iran, is making sure that Israel withdraws from Lebanon. That's a massive, condition. That is a red line for the Iranians. And so, yeah, I think the similar thing is Pakistan could be bullish on this. Donald Trump can have his birthday party and eat his cake as he wants to. But come Monday morning, I guess, Alex, is it true? I mean, the SpaceX IPO is already out, so maybe he did his favor from us that he could become a trillionaire, and we're going to see on Monday morning what happens in the market.
Well, I mean, Elon Musk his net worth is equivalent to 3.1% of the annual U.S. GDP. So let that sink in.
Yeah, that's a lot.
I want to just address with Carl. Carl, you and I have talked about corruption in companies and in countries before. I really want to talk about something that people say I shouldn't get into because it will maybe expose a lot of the way financial markets and financial accounting and companies are formed. But I can't help to mention that, living in Monaco for 20 years, you started to really understand about the offshore business and how serious it is and how many countries are involved. The first thing that I would like to bring up is a very unusual, very strange thing that didn't even catch my attention last year that happened in the United States of America. And I think this is really important because United States of America loves to seize, loves to sanction a lot of countries and companies' money, whether it's Russian assets or Iranian assets or Libyan assets or Iraqi oil for food programs, stuff like that. The company, it's a slide that we have talking about the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network. Now have a look at this, guys. This is very unusual. Consistent with the United States Department of Treasury, March 2nd, 2025 announcement, the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, FinCEN, is issuing an interim final rule that removes, get this, removes the requirement for U.S. companies and U.S. persons to report beneficial ownership information, BOI, to FinCEN under the Corporate Transparency Act. Now, what does that mean? That means that most of these companies that are offshore can now form a company in the United States, hide the beneficial owner, reopen it in the Turks and Caicos, the Cayman Islands, Jersey, Guernsey, Bahamas, you name it, and be hidden. This is a US law that was changed for this. And it brings me up to this next slide here, the frozen assets. Now, we might think it's funny that, Libya's lost $70 billion, but have a look at that. $67 billion locked. Where did it go? Not quite sure. The Iranian compounding claim is the same. We are going to see billions upon billions of dollars disappear. Middleman, banks that are connected to Israel. I mean, this is astronomical. And this is going to come out in the markets here, and we're going to see it disappear, vanish before our eyes. And the derivatives and the OTC structures that I trade in, we're seeing a huge amount of volume starting to come into the oil sector here, as we did recently. The silver, you see silver that was manipulated this year from, I think, $40 or $50 an ounce over $100. And we're seeing it happen to other precious metals. That is a washing machine. That is a washing machine for all this money. Cyrus and Carl, I really think that this is probably one of the largest amount of money ever stolen from a nation ever. And already, even before this, and you guys can look this up, $12 billion has already been wired out of, I believe it's a Saudi bank or one of the GCC countries this morning to Iran. How does that happen? Interesting. It's something that we have to look into. But to see that law change, that you can hide the beneficial owner in the United States, where this is a country about, allowing people to have companies, but you must show who the beneficial owner is. They went after millions upon millions. They broke, actually, the Swiss banking industry while I was living in Monaco when they went in there with all the IRS and said, okay, you guys are going to jail unless you turn these over. In a sweetheart deal, they decided with the Swiss, okay, we'll keep secrecy. You just pay us 25% of the value of those accounts. And this is going to happen to Iran, but I think Iran is very clever here. There are going to be some checks and balances here, and we're going to see some of these vanishing yields appear somewhere in the market. That money has to come out and get washed somewhere. So it's going to be rather interesting. Thanks, gentlemen.
But Alex, that's nothing new. I mean, they have been doing this, changing the rules, like repealing of Glass-Steagall Acts. This is a feature, not a bug.
I agree,
And
Carl. But the difference here is these funds used to, in the old, we'll call it the olden days. The olden days was suitcases of cash and bars of gold. These days now, we're starting to see the crypto market. Why do you think the administration in the United States is so happy to let out of jail some individuals that have ripped people off for billions of dollars? Because we're seeing that money move over to a new style of, we'll call it washing, and the Trump administration's hands are all over this. It's all over it. I have no idea why he's not in jail for this, but I mean, his sons are involved with really murky deals, and Besson's involved. I mean, everybody's involved in it. And I just think, Carl, yes, nothing new here, but moving forward, we're going to see some strange stuff happen. You don't see silver go to $105 to $110 an ounce for no reason. And firms like James Street appear in Wall Street that are outperforming JP Morgan, and nobody knows who's in the management there. So we're going to see some pretty amazing things. I think Cyrus nailed it with Elon Musk saying that, there might have been a bit of a call there saying, you know what, Donnie, did some good things for you. Can you do me a solid here? Let this thing fly. And I bet you guys didn't know this, but do you know that Twitter was part of that deal? That was wrapped up into that deal as well. It was packaged in that IPO. So he did get all his money back for Twitter.
And you know what is the consequences of them changing the rules? Is that now when SpaceX IPO, instead of going through the regular auditing process, now it just automatically gets rolled into the index, NASDAQ, S&P 500, which means all of you who have like retirement funds, all you like school teachers or firefighters who have retirement funds that's been managed by a fund manager, they're obligated to use your money to buy SpaceX stocks because it's part of the index. So by design, it's to funnel money again from the masses all the way to Elon, so Elon can become a trillionaire. It's all part of the design, sir.
Crazy.
It's yeah. Well, I mean, I think, gentlemen, I mean, we talked about this, I think, a couple of weeks ago when we talked about Donald Trump executing over 3,600 trades, during his first 3 months of office as president of the United States. I mean, that's more than any other president in history combined. I mean, these presidents are not making this type of financial market. So it's become very clear that when you hear the MAGA crowd trying to argue that Donald's a man of the people, and it's absolutely hilarious when he says, "Did you know that Donald Trump actually does not take that $400,000 a year annual salary that is demanded for the president? The president earns a salary of $400K, but Donald Trump, he's a man of the people, and he, out of the goodness of his heart, declines that money because he says, I don't need to work for $400,000. No doubt you don't, because you're making $400 million on the back end, buddy. More than that, you're making a lot more than that. I mean, I'm talking a lot more than that, and I mean, it's remarkable because. Again, I mean, you talk about Alex. That was a great segment that you just said. Hats off to you because this is the insights that I think a lot of people come to our channels for. Certainly these financial insights, and I've got some really interesting ones. But I kind of want to. Is it too early to talk about the SpaceX IPO and kind of bring up those clips, Alex?
Well, let's get to that. But just before you get to that, you mentioned Trump. These 3,000 and so trades. We're forgetting about these offshore entities. And how easy they are. All you have to do is call Mossack in Panama and say, right, I want an off-the-shelf company or I want a numbered company. They have thousands of these ready to go. So, okay, offshore entity, $600, $800. Let's say a Delaware that you can now hide the beneficial owner, $400 or $500. Then you get a trust. Trust would act as directors of the company to hide the ultimate beneficial owner that, the United States have allowed you to hide. So while you get that structure set up, it's about $2,500 to $3,000 to start it up. And to run that each year, it's anywhere from $1,000 to $1,500. Now, most of these are positioned in small islands like the Bahamas, the Turks and Caicos, the Seychelles, Monaco, Liechtenstein, Luxembourg, all these countries, these small nations. Why do you think they exist? And why do you think Monaco, that has a population of 33,000, which actually bans its original Monegasque residents from actually gambling in their own casinos? So how does a country with 28,000 foreigners manage to throw a Formula One race? I mean, you can imagine. And then you throw on the banking element to that, and voila, you have exactly what the US government has done in March of last year. It shocked me when I saw it, Cyrus. And this really kind of makes you wonder, who's next? Which sovereign wealth fund are they going to rip off next? Well, they got the Iranians, and well, they got to give it back because they didn't expect the Strait of Hormuz to cost them so much. So are we on to Cuba now? We're going to strip Cuba of all their cash. That's all I got to say on this. But yeah, let's head over to the next topic, sir.
Yeah, I mean, we've heard Cuba, has been the target for a long time, and we know that that's coming next. I mean, you got Marco Rubio who's chomping at the bit. I saw an interesting insight. Marco Rubio had said, "I don't think that birthright citizenship should actually be something in the United States, right? That is something that should be revoked. That is something wrong." Interesting enough, Marco Rubio was born in Miami to Cuban immigrants who at the time of his birth were not U.S. citizens. So the only way that Marco Rubio became a U.S. citizen was because of birthright citizenship. His parents, both of them, were not American nationals. They were not United States citizens. And that kind of sums up the absolute ridiculousness of where we're getting at with this Trump administration, where, again, we're talking about the unbelievable amount of corruption, the market manipulation, the just gross incompetence from this team. But then you look at Marco Rubio, and again, he's just such a puppet in this regime where he says, what about the Strait? And it's like, well, we have to really focus on this birthday party celebration at the White House. The UFC fight, that's a gift to the American people. That's a gift, guys, that we are giving to the American people. And I said, and I saw another tweet that was great. It's just like, I'm pretty sure the American people would like affordable groceries and healthcare. That's kind of probably a better gift, for the American people that would
not a bad idea.
Fight. But no, we've built not a bad idea, but no, we've built this gargantuous tower, that's going to sit in front of the White House. And Trump has even floated the idea that it might become a permanent structure, which is just totally ridiculous. But, I do want to get to the IPO because I want to introduce you guys to a guy that I know personally, Alvin Wong Grayland. He is a fantastic insider into all things AI. If you have not followed him, look him up on Twitter. Fantastic follow. I've actually interviewed him a couple of years ago. I know Alvin from my days back in Shanghai. I actually used to teach him golf lessons back in Shanghai back in the day. So I've known him for almost 15, 16 years, probably closer to 20 actually. But anyways, I want you to play that first clip where he breaks down a little bit.
I actually think that the SpaceX IPO and the coming Anthropic and OpenAI IPO is the beginning of the popping of the AI bubble. I know it may be a little bit controversial or counterintuitive, but when a company goes public, what happens is that their books become publicly available and viewable. And a lot of the ways that the revenues are being accounted for and the costs are being accounted for have never been seen by the public. I think very soon they will be. And I think the economics of this industry right now is not sustainable.
Now you say next year, next month, there will be a bubble. There will be.
Well, no, I think there is a bubble today, but the popping of the bubble will take a few months. I would say by the end of the year, it will be very clear. And here's an example. You look at AI or SpaceX. They used to be an AI company. Now what they've become in the last few weeks is now they are a hyperscaler. They're just renting out their data centers now to Google and to Anthropic. And they're collecting $1 billion each per month from them. So essentially all they did was they built this data center and they're renting out. If Elon really thought that AI was going to make money, why would he take his most valuable resource that he thinks he has an advantage over everyone and rent it out? Because a few $1 billion to him is nothing if you can make trillions of dollars in revenue. The fact that he is even right now spending the time to make these deals means that he does not believe that AI will bring him the money to justify his IPO.
Yeah, nailed it. Nailed it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And
I was.
when he says that pop when it's over, remember the pop in the dot-com boom. We talked about it 2 weeks ago in this program. From the year 2000 to 2014, the S&P did pretty much nothing. So get ready, folks. If you are banking on the market to make you a lot of money once this thing goes bang, it's not going to happen. They've already ripped your money off at $135 a share.
Yeah, there's a reason they're all trying to IPO right now.
Yep.
They're trying to cash out at the top because all of them know it's not gonna be lasting phenomena. They gotta get their money out now.
Right now. Yeah, that's a great piece, Cyrus. That is very interesting. And viewers, again, you Cyrus, you may want to say the guy's name again. We got another slide with him, but yeah, what a great piece.
Yeah, Alvin's a really close friend of mine. A couple of years ago, I met him at CES in Las Vegas. We played a round of golf together, and we actually sat down for an interview and talked about AI. And he's amazing because he worked in Beijing for many years, and he's so knowledgeable. He basically travels around the world full time, giving keynote speeches on AI. He's one of the best AI insiders that you can find. And he actually messaged me on X. And he added that clip with me, and he just said, "Hey," he always kind of bounces ideas off, and he's like, "Hey, I'd love to get your thoughts on this." And I was like, "This is such a great video. I'm going to play it during the live stream." So, Alvin, if you're watching this, I kept my word. I wanted to play that because you just hit the nail right on the head. And I love the insight there, guys. Is if Elon Musk really thinks that this was his most valuable asset and that and he has the advantage over that. Why the hell would he be renting that out, right? Why would he be willing to give that up? He obviously is doing that because he doesn't have that belief in there. And now everything is coming up, everything is getting ready, right? Like Carl had said, this is why they're all trying to go IPO. And now let's go ahead and bring up that next slide because this is even a more interesting one to kind of further expand this one, guys. We'll go ahead and bring this slide up. And basically what Alvin is saying here is, as the world celebrates this $2 trillion SpaceX IPO, what most don't realize is that history clearly tells us that the bigger the IPO valuation and the more the money raised, the less return is provided to investors in the public market after IPO. So, you can look at this, just we go back to NVIDIA and Amazon, but look at how, this starts to, the ratio starts to go a little bit crazy when you look at Alphabet, Meta, and now, of course, SpaceX, which is actually through the chart. It's not actually at the top there. It's so crazy. So, SpaceX is projected to provide only a 1 to 2x return over the next 20 years versus an 8,200 return, for NVIDIA or a 6,200x return for Amazon. So all that upside has already been captured by the early insider investors. So again, this is what Carl had said. This is what Alex, myself, the retail investors are left holding the bag.
Of course.
Right? And that is the big thing. That's how it works,
But you see, these guys also, again, I keep tooting my own horn here because I trade derivatives for 20 years. Guys, The house is rigged. It will continue to be rigged. I see it way before the market sees it. I can already see, you watch in the next 10 days, they're going to announce option positions are going to be available for SpaceX, probably early. If I see them next week, I know these guys are crooked big time. You see, there's a saying in the stock industry. Right now, Musk is this. He's stock rich, cash poor for the moment. Stock rich, cash poor. And now you will see that mouth open. Oh, we have a little bit more will open up for the institutional investors, but then we'll really open it nice and wide for the retail investors. And as Carl said, there is no way to get around this. They've got it in your 401ks, they've got it in your retirements, they got it in your school pensions. God, probably Ontario Teachers Fund has it in there. Craziness.
Oh, for sure.
What a great piece, Cyrus. I guess the competitor, does anybody know the competitor in China to that? I'm hearing it's a company called Land Space Technology.
So they are trying to basically playing catch up by building reusable rockets. I give them a couple of years. What China is really good at doing is once they see an area that shows potential, especially commercial potential, what China is really good at is mass producing and made it commoditize the product, make it super cheap. So they're not quite there right now, but I expect in 2 to 5 years, once they catch up, they will be able to make this launch super cheap. And this is why I don't see SpaceX maintain. There's no moat. I don't think they have a moat. I long term. I mean, like right now they do have they are leading, but I think they will erode in the next 5 to 10 years.
Can I ask you, Carl? I'm not a space guy that knows too much about technology and stuff, but I'm hearing that a lot of the cellular networks are quite worried that when applications start to come to the handset community, we'll call it, we use the average mobile phone on a cellular network. When we start connecting mobile phones to satellite networks, we will pretty much walk away from using a phone number, and we will then get into more of a secure way of, let's say, sending messages encrypted wise. Now, there's where I see the real race where, okay, if you don't trust a nation like Starnet with your data, I think if you're the Russians and you're forming a ground invasion in certain parts of, let's say, the Donbass area, it's probably not smart to use SpaceX. But you could maybe steer your devices towards the satellites of China or other nations. There is some reality to space wars, isn't there?
Well, I mean, look at the current war in the Persian Gulf area. The Iran, they have been doing very well lately. They knew what to hit, where to hit. Some say they had some help in the satellite intelligence. There's definitely a competition, a space race right now between China and United States to put together constellations of satellites. SpaceX, they have a lead, of course. They're now putting a lot of payloads into space, but China is catching up, and this is where I see, China will give Elon real competition for his money. And anyway, like the stuff you're talking about for everyday communication, that will be a tangible, that will be like a bonus. That will be like a bonus that everyone can use. But real application and the real usage for something like SpaceX or whatever Chinese constellation that they're putting up right now is for national security. This is why, like SpaceX, Starlinks, they're kind of embedded with Pentagon right now, and because Pentagon has a very real interest to have satellites everywhere, cover the entire globe. So with the Chinese. So that is the real competition is going to come in. I mean, as far as like provides coverage to the area where they don't have good cell coverage, that's just bonus. That's what they sell to the public. They tell the public, oh, Starlink is really to provide you with better internet access in like the jungle of Papua New Guinea. But really, that's not what the real money comes from. The real money will come from Pentagon and all the nation states fundings. So this is where I think that the space race is real between China and United States, and you will play out for the next 5 to 10 years. So the thing where you talk about using secure satellite communication, it will not happen right away. We're probably 10 years away from that because they're still building their competing constellations of satellites up there right now.
Cyrus, Janssen,
yes.
Let's do the last bit here. And I just want to say again to everybody that comes out on Sunday night here, we try our best during the week to get the latest, but this is a very fast moving news cycle here. Cyrus and I were pondering back and forth. Is it SpaceX or is it deal or no deal, or what is it? So today, I think we managed to pivot and get quite a nice turnout with all the channels here. I just want to say thanks again to the I Chung Ching channel for coming out with good numbers, Reporterfy Media and Carl Zaws, and of course, Cyrus, Janssen. We're all over the world, guys. We're in different continents sometimes, in different parts of the world. But it's so important that you guys come out and support all of these channels. Don't forget to subscribe to every single channel. Links are in my description below as well. And I'm going to pass off this last, let's call it, well, Cyrus, I'll leave it up to you and the audience. And you and Carl can close it out. I've done my segment for today. Reporterfy Media, guys, you stay tuned here and keep watching these boys. Thanks, guys.
Sounds good, Alex. Thanks so much, buddy, for everything as always. Carl, I want to talk a little bit about, as we continue to talk about this AI, did you hear the news, with Anthropic and basically how Donald Trump and the administration have now, this is a big one, guys. They basically have said that it's because of national security. Okay, we're now going to ban this from exporting outside the United States, and we're also going to restrict foreign nationals inside the United States from accessing this. Which, again, I was chatting with my friend Alvin Wongrelen, and he said, "Cyrus, this is basically the United States handing the future of the AI industry to China on a silver platter. Basically, China, here you go." Because, this is, imagine that, right? Like if you have developed this great AI and now only US citizens are allowed to use it, well, then what else is the rest of the world going to use? They're going to start using other platforms like Chinese platforms. Every market, has to have competition, and competition makes you stronger. It makes you better. And it is just another absolute own goal for Donald Trump and the United States here. Carl, let me know your thoughts.
I mean, this is at the time when a lot of the US companies are now switching to use the Chinese open source LLMs because they're so much cheaper. Like the DeepSeek, like the Open AI, they charge like 14 times more per token than DeepSeek. And so the choice is obvious. Why would so I think Airbnb and some of these other companies, they actually use the Chinese open source model because it's just so much cheaper, they provide the same functionality. So why go Anthropics or OpenAI, and Donald Trump's legislation is not helping. It's actually like what Donald Trump policy has done traditionally. It's to make China greater again. No matter what he does, he just makes China looks much better option right now. And this is why, I mean, even we're talking about the strategic oil reserve all throughout the world. That strategic oil reserve is being drawn down, except China. China has barely touched its 1.4 billion barrels of strategic oil reserve because they have enough. They have enough oil still coming in. Right. So right now, China is the best position to weather the economic storm right now because there is a bigger economic storm that's coming. I saw Alex chart earlier show how many months it will take to restore traffic to the pre-war pattern, but that's assumed optimum condition. First of all, the shipping insurance, the war insurance for the shipping line, that's not going to come down. It's a serious money for a VLCC ship. The increase of few percentage of the shipping insurance would mean $5 to $10 million per ship. I mean, like a lot of the tankers owners, they will think twice about, keep on sending shipping to Persian Gulf because they would have to put their faith into Donald Trump and Netanyahu not to do this again in the future. And so, why risk it when they can send it to, South America or Africa or North America, much safer route. And so that means we're not likely to see the shipping pattern to return to the pre-war level for a long time. And the only reason the oil price has not shoot past $150 a barrel right now is precisely because a large drawdown of the strategic petroleum reserve. Well, guess what? When those strategic petroleum reserve goes down. So the real tsunami hasn't hit yet, and this is maybe another reason why Donald Trump wants to tackle right now. But I don't know. I'm not very optimistic this is going to be for real this time.
No, I mean, gosh, I mean, Carl, we've been, discussing the Iran war for a long time. And to me, it just doesn't feel like we're anywhere closer to where we were a month ago or 2 months ago. I don't think there's really been any progress because, largely it's essentially stalemated, and it's gotten to the point where, everybody's very fatigued about this. But then, of course, in the last couple of weeks, you started to see a little bit more news, right? All of a sudden, Donald Trump had made a phone call to Netanyahu and said, look, I don't want you to fire those, missiles anymore. Netanyahu says, well, guess what? We are, and basically, I don't give a crap what you have to say, Donald. He fires them anyways. Iran retaliates. So you saw a little bit of a flare up last week, in what has been a relatively calmer period there in the Middle East. But I think what we have to realize is that Iran has kind of nothing to lose at this point, right? They're playing a little bit loose. I'm going to use a World Cup analogy here, since I've been watching some of the football games. But, you see some of these teams that come out that are kind of underdogs, and they're playing a little loose out there, right? They're trying some good passes. They don't really have anything to lose, right? They don't need to be strategic, right? Whereas where someone like Brazil comes out and all of a sudden they're down 1-0 to Morocco, well, gosh, you got to get that equalizer goal, or you've completely lost face. So they're going to play a lot more rigid and they have a lot more pressure. And I think that's what you're looking at right now. If you could, understand my, if all our audience there can understand my football reference, but you have Iran who's just saying, look, at this point, we've been sanctioned for 47 years. Now we have leverage. We're going to apply that leverage, and we're going to get what we want at this point, because what else do we have to lose? It's kind of the same thing what you saw in Palestine and Gaza, right? Gaza, at some point they're just like, we're treated like absolute animals, by the Israelis, and we're just going to make a move right now. And you can see why, it sounds really extreme, but this is how they democratically elected, Hamas into power there, because it's like, Hamas is not a good organization, but gosh, we have no other options, what are we going to do? Sit here and die, or are we going to at least try to give a fight for it? And, again, I'm not trying to justify what they did was right or wrong. It's just, you can see when people are put in these situations, this is what's going to happen. And I think with the Iranians, they just have a lot more leverage and power. And I think, Alex brought up a good segment there, Carl. I think there's a lot of money going to Iran secretly, through these organizations. Basically, we know Trump is going to have to try to spin a deal. And then whatever deal he's going to get through, he's going to have to spin it that he actually won, even though potentially on the back end, he's paying billions just to try to clean up the mess that he started. But to the American people, they're not going to be able to understand anything. And, they're just going to be, they're just going to see whatever is reported on the news, which is all controlled anyways. So this is why I think it's really important to have live streams like this, where we could try to bring some insights and, hopefully decipher some of the, the BS that's happening right now.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Trump will never say he will pay reparation to Iran, which is one of the key Iranian demands. Instead, he will pass the money on, or maybe he will call it humanitarian aid, whatever. He will put a label on it, anything but reparation. But that money will get transferred if they actually want a deal to get done, because that's a key Iranian demand that have to be met. Right now, Iran has all the leverage because Trump cannot open the Strait of Hormuz. So at the end of the day, they don't have much options.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Carl, I think it's a good point to end it there. Always a pleasure to see you, my friend, and always good to see Alex as well. Guys, my name is Cyrus. I want to thank you all for tuning in on this channel and all of our channels that were connected tonight. We work hard through the week to try to bring you these programs, and we're just so excited to build some momentum each and every week. Let's go ahead and roll our outro. Carl, we look forward to seeing you in our next live stream as well, and we'll see everybody very soon.
Bye, guys.